Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Putting a bow on week 4 of the college football season. And yeah, we got a big one coming up this upcoming weekend in week 5, of course, headlined by Georgia heading to Tuscaloosa. The Dogs against the Tide. We'll touch on that later on in the show, but a lot happening this past weekend across college football. The Detroit Lions put another win in the win column, go out to Arizona, take care of business against the Cardinals. Jake Fromm, how are you, bro?
Hey, man, doing great. Yeah, absolutely great win down in AZ. Got back late last night, so taking it easy today. But great college football week 4. And, guys, we're looking forward to a great, fantastic, a lot of high expectations for week 5. So excited to recap and also excited to look forward to week 5.
No question. Did you take my restaurant recommendation into consideration? Where did you guys end up eating? I know you stayed close to Arizona State and Tempe. What'd you do? I sent you Steak 44. I said it's the best. It's one of my top steakhouses in the country. It sounds like you didn't go.
I am so disappointed to tell you that I did not go. I mean,
where'd you go?
We traveled, we got back, and we went straight into meetings, and then meetings ended at like 8 o'clock, and then it's 8 o'clock that time, so it's almost 10:30, 11 o'clock our time.
Right.
And dude, I was gassed. I was wiped. So just ate something, a little snack there at the hotel. Kind of felt like a loser a little bit because I wanted a steak. I wanted a steak so bad.
I know you texted me that.
But guess what I did? So our former sponsors, RecTech, here on the podcast, ordered another smoker. It's up here in Detroit today.
Oh,
just put it together.
Wow.
So I'm firing that bad boy up tonight. We are grilling steaks.
All right. Shout out RecTech. There you go. Jake Fromm bringing one up to the Midwest. So it will be smelling good outside his house. Victory Steaks, as Spencer says, no doubt about it. What's the travel situation like? I'm guessing you guys probably flying a Delta plane. Where are you sitting? Who do you sit by? Give everybody a little bit of an insight as to how an NFL team travels, and then tell everybody just how much food are on those flights.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to watch yourself, because if you eat every single meal that they offer you, you can gain 5 pounds.
No question.
Over a weekend. Like, it is the easiest thing to do. You keep eating, you're bored. It's a 4-hour flight. You're like, I mean, I might as well just keep eating. You're eating and you're watching shows. I mean, that's all you're doing. So, man, got a great group of guys. One of the coolest things that, being on an NFL team, college football team is the cool traveling experience, flying kind of private, and it blows flying commercial and normal out of the water.
It will ruin you.
Oh, yeah. Nobody cares if your tray's up or if your seatbelt's on. Nobody cares. Hey, food's out. Everybody's up. Everybody's hanging, doing whatever you want to do. And it's a cool, neat experience.
Yeah, especially on a Saturday. Like, college football's on, so all the guys are watching their teams. Yeah. If you're on that Delta plane, you have plenty of channels to flip through. I mean, the Wi-Fi connectivity now, you can pretty much stream any game you want on an iPad or a tablet or a computer. Guys have their own action amongst each other. Some guys' teams are playing other guys' teams, so there's plenty of chatter. And when I'm talking about the food, like when you show up at the airport or the FBO, they've got food for you before you get on the plane. Plenty of rookies and younger guys have to go take care of some of the vets, so they're bringing tons of custom orders onto the plane, bags of, I don't know, a Buffalo Wild Wings or
Chick-fil-A, anywhere from Chick-fil-A, Chipotle to Cheesecake Factory.
Like, and then you get on the plane. And then they have an entire menu for you on the plane. They've got snacks galore. They've got drinks galore. I mean, they are asking you every time they see you, can I get you something? Can I get you something? Can I get you something? That happens for 4 straight hours. Then you get off the plane, you go to the hotel. There's food freaking everywhere. And then guys are wanting to understand, hey, where are we going to go? We're in a new town. We got some time. Let's go get away and get a nice meal. So I wanted to give everybody a little bit of an insight there. It is a gluttonous experience for sure when you travel with an NFL team.
Oh yeah, and we forgot the per diem as well. So you just you just cop another $70 now.
$70 per day. So when you
Yep.
walk up onto the plane, they hand you a little envelope. It's got cash because you get per diem when you're away from the facility. You get a little bit of jingle in your pocket. So
That's right.
when I was with the Pittsburgh Steelers or Arizona Cardinals, there are a lot of opportunities to put that cash up for grabs. While on that plane, you could easily lose it pretty quickly, or you could double, triple, quintuple it, X, Y, and Z. So a little bit of the insights there as to how an NFL team travels. But most importantly, you guys went out there, took care of business, and the Lions are 2-1. Hey, speaking of taking care of business, if you've got an engagement coming up or you're thinking about proposing to your significant other, you have got to get over to Solomon Brothers Jewelers because, simply put, it is the ultimate jewelry experience in Atlanta, and it's who is presenting this episode of Punt and Pass to you and every Monday throughout this entire season. This episode presented to you by Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Check them out on social media at Solomon Brothers on X and Instagram, or go to SolomonBrothers.com. Here is what Jaron is doing for all Punt and Pass listeners. If you go into a store and you mention that Punt and Pass sent you, you can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. 3 amazing locations for you to check out. The OG, Buckhead, 17th floor Tower Place. There's one in North Atlanta in Alpharetta, just past the Avalon, and a brand new location south of the city in Sharpsburg. I just checked the calendar, and if you are purchasing that engagement ring, Wedding Band Weekend is coming up the weekend of October 26th. When you buy her wedding band, you get his absolutely free. There's no better time. First off, you're going to get the best engagement ring your money could possibly buy at Solomon Brothers. Then you go back, get that wedding band. You get your significant others absolutely free. Go check out Solomon Brothers, the best in-store experience, unbelievable selection. They've got timepieces as well. All your jewelry and accessory needs. Mention Punt and Pass in store. You get 20% off that jewelry purchase. Again, Wedding Band Weekend coming up October 26th. Buy her wedding band, get his free. Shout out to Solomon Brothers, SolomonBrothers.com. All right, let's touch on some things. Yes, there was plenty of action on the college football landscape this past weekend. Probably most notably, Jake, was the Tennessee win in Oklahoma. We'll get to that. The Vols take care of business. They definitely look for real. A couple of tilts in the Big 10 and the Big 12. USC goes down at Michigan. Michigan just runs the ball. I think they threw for like 50 yards passing, maybe even a little bit less than that. They still come out with the victory. And then Oklahoma State loses at home to Utah. Utah did not even have Cam Rising. But a game that we talked about last week was in the SEC against 2 unranked opponents, old SEC West foes, Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn loses the game. Remember, Hank Brown was the starting quarterback heading into that weekend, Jake, because Peyton Thorne was a little bit turnover prone. And after the game, head coach Hugh Freeze is in his press conference, Jake, and he takes it upon himself to blame everyone but him. And he threw his quarterbacks under the bus in grand fashion. I'm going to play this press conference clip for you from Hugh Freeze after the loss to Arkansas. You as a quarterback, I need your immediate reaction. And of course, it went crazy on social media. Auburn loses to Arkansas 24-14, and Hugh Freeze was not happy after the game.
Unfortunately, this is what I know, and I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football. And we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team. And we got to find running backs that hold on to it. You know, that's a huge play there. I mean, we're going in to score. I don't know, what was it, 7-0 then, or so it's 7-7, and our defense gets a stop, and who knows what happens. But, you know, the scheme is what most everybody in the country is running some sort of. But you've got to have good play at quarterback for sure to whatever system you're going to choose.
What you say there, QB1?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm stuck between, I don't mind kind of what he said. It's just kind of how he said it. Like, yes, we got to protect the football. We got to do the little things right. Just kind of how he said it. You know, we got guys open, can't throw it to their team. Hey, look, I get it, man. When I kind of equate it to if you're playing baseball, right, and you're the shortstop and you let a ball go between your legs, right? Everybody out there knows you're not supposed to let a ball go between your legs. So
Right.
you don't want to hear, hey, don't let the ball go between your legs. Hey, look, I get it. I know I'm not supposed to do that. I get it. I just, I don't know, like this is kind of a theme that showed up. So is it Coach Freeze and what they're trying to do offensively, or is it the quarterback? Well, if it was the quarterback, then why didn't we go get one during, this transfer portal stuff during the offseason? Like, that was an opportunity. You got money there at Auburn. What's the deal? What's the disconnect there? But obviously you trusted these guys enough to go into the season with them, and we got to coach them up. We got to put them in positions to succeed. So I don't know, just not a huge fan of it, and wish he'd stick up for his guys a little bit more than he did.
Yeah, because he's not making any words minced, if you want to put it that way. He is flat out saying we need to find a quarterback who won't throw it to the other team. We need to get running backs who will take care of the football. We all know, to your point you just made, Jake, you can't turn the ball over in football, much less SEC conference play, and expect to get out of there with a victory. So surely what's happening on the field is correlating to them not winning football games. But then when he doubles down and says, look, the scheme that we're running is something that everybody in the country is running a variation of, our guys are just not executing it, it's not a good look. I highly doubt the fans want to hear that. You and I both know the players in the locker room don't want to hear that. And then what about the administration? What about like the general kind of college football fan? It puts a stain on Auburn, and one person who understood that this might be coming, or who has dealt with it in the past, former Ole Miss quarterback Bo Wallace, who of course played for Hugh Freeze. He went after his former coach on social media, and Bo Wallace is now the offensive coordinator at the University School of Jackson. He throws up these tweets, okay? And he gives a little bit of an insight, and this is what he said. I'm reading it if you're watching us on YouTube right now. This is a tweet from Bo Wallace, former Ole Miss quarterback, who, of course, was head coached by Hugh Freeze. Quote, we're approaching the point that he's thrown so many QBs under the bus that maybe nobody wants to play for him. His offense definitely helped me tremendously put numbers up when I blew my shoulder out, but why is it someone else's fault every time there's a loss? But when there's a win, I watch the press conference just to count how many times Hugh Freeze says the word I. Bo says, I appreciate what he did for me. However, my son won't be playing for him. He goes on to tell more stories. You can read this if you're on our YouTube page. But man, I mean, it looks like Bo Wallace is simply saying this is just the kind of guy Hugh Freeze is. He's airing out this dirty laundry to maybe deflect some potential recruits to go to Auburn, but he's not mincing his words either. A lot of fans were in his replies, Jake, saying, wow, you were singing his praises weeks ago. Like, why the change of tune? And Wallace even says, hey, he's a great coach. Like, he can scheme up offense. There's no doubt about it. This is just who he is. So really interesting here to see this back and forth, especially after a significant loss Auburn just had.
Yeah, if anybody would know, it would be Bo Wallace, who's a 3-year starter for Coach Freeze at Ole Miss. I'm, on the plane because we have Wi-Fi there, and I'm scrolling through X, and on my algorithm, this shows up, and I'm like, oh man, this is juicy. Like, there's something to this. So yeah, I mean, if anybody would know, it would be Bo. He's been there, been in the program, obviously been coached by him. Just kind of knows everything, knows the day in, the day outs. So there's something there, and I'm very intrigued to watch this story develop, to see what comes of it, if it turns around for the positive, or this could be a very slippery slope downward.
Yeah, how does this back and forth communication continue to go, if at all? I highly doubt Hugh Freeze will even justify it with a response, but here's what Bo Wallace continued to say, quote, do your research on Hugh Freeze's offenses, excluding his time at Liberty. Look at the interceptions every QB he's had play for him throws. At some point, when it happens over and over every year, you need to look in the mirror, not at the players, to save face. So essentially he's saying he's not putting the quarterbacks in the right situations, and the quarterbacks are trained to throw the ball on these specific routes, and defenses might be catching on to it. Therefore, Bo Wallace, a quarterback, saying it's not the quarterback's fault. The coach is saying it's not the coach's fault. Guess what, guys? It's probably a little bit of everybody's fault, but I lay blame to Hugh Freeze here. You just got to kind of take it on the chin and say, we'll get back in the film room. Save those digs for in the team meeting room, right? I think that's where you have the opportunity to lay everything out on the line, be very candid with your guys behind closed doors. Let that be known amongst the people in your locker room, not out in the media, especially right after a game, Jake.
Because as soon as you do that, you proclaim to everybody in that locker room that you are in self-preservation mode.
Yeah,
and you're looking out for your job. That's exactly what I hear if I'm on that team in that locker room. Like, oh, right now he's not caring about us. He's looking out for him. That's what I hear when he says that.
You know, what's interesting is that your current head coach, Dan Campbell, is almost the complete opposite of that. He is the antithesis of that. When you guys lost the game last week to the Bucs, he went to the stand and said, I let my players down today. You know, the head coach of an NFL team was saying, that's on me. I asked my guys to improve during the week throughout practice. They did that. I failed them. So seeing that vulnerability from a head coach, it only allows your guys to want to play for you more. So an interesting way to go about the business for Hugh Freeze. And what's going down at Auburn? I don't know. Are they going to go back to Peyton Thorne? Clearly, he finished out the game after Hank Brown kept turning the ball over. And I saw a clip, Spencer, I did not send this one to you, but after the game, Peyton Thorne, who made comments about fans in his DMs and they're requesting Venmo from him because they're losing bets because of his poor play. He was asked from the media, what will you tell Hank Brown in response to, you know, his poor performance? Do you know what Peyton Thorne said?
Probably stay off his phone, right?
Stay off his phone. Yeah. I think the media was wanting something more from like a fundamental, like a football perspective. And Peyton Thorne was like, I'm just going to tell him to stay off his phone. Probably pretty sage advice in such a heated moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it could definitely get hot. You know, everybody's got a lot of emotions going on, and losing is never fun. Winning solves a lot of problems, but man, losing and losing in games when you're arguably supposed to win, that's tough, man. Tough place to be.
Yeah, another tough time, or some people who might want to stay off their phone. This takes us into second down and 3 and out. Are the football players at North Carolina? Yeah, they might want to stay off their phone with this week. Jake, North Carolina lost to JMU. That's James Madison University. The Tar Heels of the ACC lost to James Madison out of the Sun Belt, 70-50. That is a basketball score. We're talking about a football game. James Madison beat North Carolina in Chapel Hill, 70-50. James Madison scored 53 points in the first half. An absolutely unbelievable beatdown that James Madison laid on North Carolina again in Chapel Hill. James Madison moves to 3-0. They scored every which way you possibly could in the first half, obviously hanging 53. And Mack Brown, the head coach of North Carolina, after the game, you want to talk about being emotional? Clearly, he was taking responsibility. It was reported that when talking to his team in the locker room after the game, he was laying the blame on himself. And he said, look, guys, if you don't think I am a worthy leader of your football program, I'll step aside. Mack Brown said that to his team. That, of course, got out. North Carolina has since had to dispel the rumors saying he is not resigning. He will be back at work this week. You see here from Chris Lowe, longtime ESPN insider, his tweet on X, if you're watching YouTube, Mack Brown told ESPN on Saturday he is not resigning. He, quote, will be back at work Sunday following an embarrassing 70-50 loss to James Madison. He said it was an emotional locker room. He told the team he blamed himself and would step away if he couldn't get things straightened out. So on one side, Jake, you've got Hugh Freeze saying blame everybody else. On the other side, you've got Mack Brown saying, I'm so sorry. I'll quit if I'm that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we sat there and talked about Hugh Freeze. Is it coaching? Is it not? Well, when it comes to this game in this situation, you know, the experience and the wisdom from Mack Brown, he knows that it is 100% coaching. You don't lose to a team in that fashion with less caliber players that way. I mean, because that ultimately comes down to you got outcoached and outcoached really bad. So, man, just a bad look, tough look. Bad look for the program, terrible for the fans. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I think I've never
the Sun Belt. Yeah, man.
I've never been in this situation. Hopefully, never have to go through a situation like this because that's a tough deal, man. I don't even begin to like, what do you say other than, I mean, guys, I'm sorry, I let you down. I don't know. I'm sure it was emotional because I don't know what else to say.
If you would have told me last Friday, hey, I got a proposition for you. A college football team's going to score 50 points in a game and gain over 600 yards of offense and lose by 20. I would have said, I don't see how that's possible. I would have said, what are the odds of that in Las Vegas? Because that is an astronomically outrageous happening in the game of football. Okay. North Carolina had 30 first downs. They had 616 total yards of offense. They scored 50 points, and they lost by 20. They turned the ball over 5 times, Jake. JMU had 611 yards. They had 25 first downs. They only turned the ball over once. Listen to these scoring drives by James Madison, or the fashion in which they scored. And this is just the first half. They get on the board early with the 50-yard field goal. Awesome. Then they block a punt and return it for a touchdown, a 14-yard punt block return for a touchdown. Then they get a 70-yard touchdown pass. Then they get a 3-yard touchdown run. Then they get a 6-yard touchdown pass. Then they get a 13-yard touchdown pass. Then they get a 27-yard touchdown run. Then they get a 33-yard interception return for a touchdown. That is hitting for the cycle in terms of how to score in football. They did it in one half, and they scored 53 points. It was 53-21 at halftime.
Former defensive coordinator at Carolina, former head coach at Georgia Tech, Jeff Collins.
Oh, me, oh my.
Yeah.
Wow. So sometimes North Carolina licking their wounds. Stay off your phones, Tar Heel players.
Sometimes the jokes write themselves.
Yes, they do. All right, let's go to third down. We got a huge weekend ahead. We have an absolutely massive weekend ahead. Number 2, Georgia is heading to number 4, Alabama. College game day already announced they will be in Tuscaloosa. Will weather be a factor? I'm putting on my meteorologist hat. There's a little disturbance in the tropics, Jake. Something developing in which who knows if it will impact game day. That's a developing situation. Keep it locked in right here at Punt and Pass. What to expect from a game perspective. We'll touch on that in just a second. I do want to, before we get to that game, mention the new AP Top 25 poll is out, and Tennessee jumps up to number 5. Jake, we mentioned the Tennessee-Oklahoma game this past weekend. The Vols go into Norman. They take care of business. They get a big win. Josh Heupel homecoming. He goes back. They win 25-15, but don't look now. Tennessee might be for real. Their defense specifically, you mentioned it last week, their defensive line playing very well in the past, especially with Josh Heupel as head coach. Tennessee's defense not really been that intimidating. If the offense wasn't clicking with their elite pace and fast play and putting points up on the board, games could get away from them. Look back at Saturday night. The offense was not clicking in the fashion that they had been, to the tune of 63 points per game. And the defense was out there forcing turnovers, giving them the ball back, being extremely physical. You just haven't seen that from Tennessee in years past. They move up to number 5 in the AP poll.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, watching the game is what definitely just jumped out to me was the dominance from the defensive front of Tennessee. I mean, completely wrecked the game plan of Oklahoma. Got their starting quarterback, Jackson Arnold, out of the game.
Yeah.
He couldn't function. And this just watching this game was just a gritty SEC game to me.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of liked it in a way. You know, instead of these shootout games, there was some good defense going on, some swarming to the football. This is just a good SEC product, man, and kind of welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma. I know this was a huge game for Josh Heupel. If you guys saw any of the locker room kind of post-game speeches from him, you could tell like this meant a lot to him, man. And maybe Tennessee is for real. Like, they have multiple ways to win football games on offense and on defense now. If they play good complementary football throughout the second half of the season, I mean, they're going to be a tough team to match and go against.
Yeah, Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback. I mean, he can just absolutely rip it, and he's 6'5.5", 6'6", Jake.
Yeah,
I didn't, as a quarterback, he is standing in there and just delivering strikes downfield.
Yeah, I mean, he's able to see the field really well. And when he's getting out of the pocket, I mean, he's got a little shake and bake to him, even
Yeah.
as tall and lanky as he is. So, man, looks like a really, really good athletic football player. Looks like he's smart, knows where he's going with the ball. And obviously, you can tell he's a gifted thrower. So, it's going to be exciting to see and watch how this guy develops when he's playing some really good caliber defenses coming up here in the second half of the year.
Yep. AP top 25, pretty much unchanged. Yes, Tennessee moves up. Ole Miss swaps back to 6. So 5 teams in the top 6 are all SEC teams. Texas stays at number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Bama 4, Tennessee 5, Ole Miss 6. I'm going to Tuscaloosa.
Man, that's awesome.
With my entire family.
Wow.
My girls, my wife went to Alabama.
Yeah.
So my wife's like, you don't seem that excited. I'm like, well, going to Alabama, spending a small fortune, being at the game, having my own daughters and wife talk trash to me for 4.5 straight hours. Let's go. I'm excited. Come on.
I'm pumped, right?
I'm pumped. Let's go. Anything for the girls. So I'll be there. I think we're leaving Friday afternoon. So we'll be there all day Saturday. Going back to the weather forecast. I'm seeing some spaghetti models right now. I believe they call them. Some of them have it kind of veering west into Alabama. Could presumably bring some gusty winds and rain. I don't know if it's impacting the game on Saturday, but it's something to watch out for. What are your, just because we're going to break this down so much on Thursday's episode, but thinking about this matchup with how Georgia last looked against Kentucky in comparison to how good Alabama looked up in Wisconsin, both teams coming off a bye week. Surely the biggest storyline will be no more Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer, their fast-paced offense, of course. I looked at 2 things. One, Washington's success against Oregon last year. Dan Lanning and Oregon run a very similar style defense to Georgia. Kalen DeBoer seemed to have had their number. And then 2, I don't know. Like, I'm going into this with a little bit of muted expectations because simply put, it's just different now with a 12-team college football playoff. Am I wrong in that type of thinking?
No, you're not. You're not wrong at all. I mean, I think a 1-loss team 100% can get in. A 2-loss team,
of course,
can make an argument.
Like the NFL now, dude. To expect a team to go undefeated in the SEC now is almost just dumb.
It is. I think, especially with the addition of Texas, who's a really good football team right now, number 1 in the country. I mean, to have the expectations to go undefeated, it's going to be very tough. And having all your guys healthy, it's a tough schedule, kind of like the NFL. You just get beat up. Sometimes the games time out wrong, man.
Right.
You meet a hot team when you're banged up and stuff happens. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. If it is kind of this bad weather game, it's going to come down to physicality. And I think it really comes down to Jalen Milroe and how well he's able to move, play backyard football. Yeah. And I think it just kind of really comes down to him, really. Can he get out of the pocket and make plays and do
Ryan
what he
Williams,
needs to win? Yeah,
Ryan Williams, stud receiver. Jam Miller is having a good season so far. I mean, what Georgia did last year in the SEC championship game, effectively shutting down Jalen Milroe in the run game. You would have thought that they did everything that they possibly needed to do to win that game. They made a couple of mistakes. And against a Nick Saban coach team, those were the kiss of death, and it proved to be. It kept Georgia out of the college football playoff. Of course, that was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Things will be different heading to Tuscaloosa. Dogs haven't played in Tuscaloosa since that COVID year in 2020 where they were leading at halftime and then got smoked in the second half. Kirby Smart 1-5 against Alabama. Of course, those were all Nick Saban coach teams. The one win being, I think, the greatest victory in Georgia football history for a national championship. But so many storylines here. So much talent on the field. Both teams coming off a bye week. College game day in town. I think every single college football media entity is going to have a big presence there. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Fowler and Herbstreit in the booth. Surely the dog is going to be freaking everywhere on the field pregame. Going to have to deal with that as well. But this is it, man. Like, this is why you go to Alabama. This is why you go to Georgia. And for Georgia, it's Bama, it's Texas, it's Ole Miss, it's Tennessee. I mean, this is the start of a true gauntlet of a 2024 schedule.
Yeah, it's the gauntlet. Get ready. man, tighten that belt, tighten your gloves. It's happening. So
It's happening.
Hopefully they can find a way to get healthy here. I know Carson's dealing with a left AC joint sprain in his shoulder. And get healthy. We need Michael Williams to come back. A lot of dudes who mean a lot to this football team need to get healthy this bye week and lock in and get focused, because it's about to be gritty and tough these next couple weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be gritty and tough inside my house the next couple of days as well, leading up to that game. So I might have to go by Solomon Brothers and get a little olive branch gift to hand over to Jackie before we trek over to Tuscaloosa. Of course, I'll swing into one of their 3 amazing locations here in the Atlanta area. I'll mention Punt and Pass. I'll get 20% off my jewelry purchase, and I'll be on my merry way. This episode of Punt and Pass presented to you by Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Check them out online, solomonbrothers.com, at Solomon Brothers on X and Instagram. 20% off your jewelry purchase when you go in store, either Buckhead, Alpharetta, or Sharpsburg. The best jewelry experience in Atlanta. That, of course, is Solomon Brothers Jewelers. All right, let's touch on a few things quickly, wrapping up the weekend that was in college football. The ending of the Colorado game, Jake, was crazy. So there was 2 plays, Hail Mary situations to tie the game up at the end of regulation. Spencer, do you have the first play in which Shedeur Sanders gets out of the pocket, chucks it deep? He says he doesn't, but he throws it deep. The receiver for Colorado, like the DB, Jake, for Baylor, mistimes it. The receiver for Colorado is wide open. It hits him in the numbers, and he drops it. Okay. There's 2 seconds left on the play clock. Colorado gets one more chance to possibly tie the game up, and here's what happened.
From one side, the Big 12 opener comes down to this play. Sanders gets the feet set toward the end zone for the game. It is caught by Wester, just like 1994.
An incredible Hail Mary with no time left. Redemption immediately after dropping what would have been a surefire touchdown. So they tie the game up, which was amazing. And then it goes into overtime, and Colorado makes a great stand at the goal line. They force a fumble, and guess who put his helmet on the football to break it free? None other than two-way threat Travis Hunter puts a bow on a big-time Big 12 victory for the Buffaloes. Look at this play.
If this call stands, then Colorado wins. This would be a good look. That ball is out on contact.
Makes the play? Travis Hunter. Face on football. And certainly from this angle, we can't tell where the football was, but if that near point is not breaking the plane, certainly from that angle, we can't tell. But that's why the initial ruling is so big. The initial call, as soon as that ball goes out, it's a touchback. Dean, what else did you see?
Well, yeah, I think if we could go back to that goal line look, that's going to be the key shot, that look down the line. And that'll give us our answer. But to me, right here, this is the look. That ball is out on contact. You can see as he's crossing the goal line, it's loose. That's a fumble.
An absolutely textbook form tackle there by Travis Hunter, locating the ball, putting his shoulder/helmet on it, breaks it free right before crosses the goal line. So a guy like him, who can't weigh more than 175 pounds soaking wet, he's able to play both ways, deep into overtime, force that fumble. And, man, that was pretty special. Colorado gets a big win.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Just the fashion and the way they won that, come from behind, the Hail Mary that could have been, and then the Hail Mary that was, and then the Travis Hunter just tackling the football, textbook, putting his shoulder pad right on it, putting his face right on it. I mean, just a heck of a player making the big-time plays. I mean, that's what you want. That's what you want to see, your guys making a play when it matters most. So, man, hats off. I think that's incredible to finish that game the way it did.
No doubt.
Huge and so tough to do. And odds and probability, man, super slim. But they figured it out.
Question about it. Let me throw one more play out there before we wrap up this episode. Kansas State ranked 13th, a dark horse to kind of win the Big 12, find their way into the college football playoff. They head to Provo to take on BYU. This probably is play of the weekend. You know I love my special teams. An absolutely outrageous punt return for a touchdown here by BYU. Check this one out, Jake Fromm.
Sione Moa.
Well, now the punt. And that one might have been touched, maybe. Scooped up by the return man, Parker Kingston. And now he's going to turn the corner. There he goes. Kingston to the 50. Still going. Kingston. Touchdown.
Yeah, that was sick. That's one of those plays where everybody on the sidelines going, no,
No.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an absolutely incredible punt return for a touchdown there, 91 yards. He lets the ball bounce. He starts running backwards. Did he touch it? Did he not? He picks it up. Looks like he's going to be tackled inside his own 10. Next thing you know, he runs the width of the field, cuts it up the sideline on the opposite side, takes it the distance. I think that's the play of the weekend, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Incredible play. I mean, the conditioning level of that guy to be able to do that, go 50 yards one way and then 100 yards the other way. So, man, that's extremely tough to do. Kind of reminded me of the Deshaun Jackson when he was with the Eagles. Just something about like kind of barely dropping a punt, picking it up. It just gets the punt team just all out of whack, and they don't know.
Discombobulated.
Yeah, they don't know
out of
whether
your lanes, lose leverage, all that
yeah,
stuff.
They don't know whether to go after the football or the return guy, and they just get out of whack. So here it is again, another example of it.
There you go. Hey, it's going to be a great weekend coming up. Miami hosts Virginia Tech on Friday night. Don't look now, but Miami looks like the team to beat in the ACC. Of course, Georgia, Bama. We will be breaking that down in every which way coming up on Thursday's episode. Maybe we get a guest for that. Maybe, Jake. We maybe might want to bring somebody in for that one. Oklahoma State takes on Kansas State, top 25 matchup in the Big 12. Louisville's ranked 15th. They're undefeated. They go to Notre Dame. Oklahoma makes its way to the Plains. They're taking on Auburn. Good games all across the board. Illinois, undefeated, top 20. They're going to Penn State. Penn State's in the top 10. They are undefeated as well. So plenty of college football coming up that we will dive into on Thursday's episode of Punt and Pass. Appreciate everybody listening. Again, this episode of Punt and Pass presented to you by Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Go check them out. 3 amazing locations in Atlanta, Buckhead, Alpharetta, Sharpsburg. October 26th is Wedding Band Weekend. You buy her wedding band, you get his absolutely free. That's on top of making a jewelry purchase in store, mentioning Punt and Pass, getting 20% off. Now's the time. The holidays are coming up. Get your gifts early. Watch college football for the rest of fall. Check them out at Solomon Brothers on X and Instagram, solomonbrothers.com. We are at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake. Puntandpass.com. Jake, anything on the way out, my man?
Oh, man, got a big week coming up. Excited for it.
All right, go grill up those steaks. Enjoy your Victory Monday. Everybody have a great week, and we will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.
We out.